Hi, thank you for tuning in to Jump in Precision. This is the ministry that helps you reconcile relationships, no matter what kind of relationships they are. Um, in this ministry, I jump in with you. I teach you how to devise a plan that will enable you to break the ice, to get the conversation going again that may be estranged, and also to help you to know what to expect in the reconciliation process. So today I want to talk to you about, I took some notes here, about what to expect. When it's time to jump into a relationship or when you decide to re-enter a relationship, you as the initiator will need to expect some things. If you are the person who did the wrongdoing, you're the reason maybe that the relationship broke apart or is distant, or you actually you did something. um, it could be a small infraction, or it could be something really major. One of the things you're going to have to, excuse me one second, one of the things you're going to have to remember is to, when you initiate it, you can say something very short, very simple. I'd like to talk to you about what happened, or is it possible that we can talk, etc., etc. You're your own person, so you personalize the intro, whether it be. I don't recommend via text, but these days people text a lot, so if you need to crack the ice with a text, then crack the ice with a text. It's not a big deal. Um, the next thing is to, if the person agrees, or when you do come in contact with the person, you need to state what you did wrong. What I mean by that is, you're not going to be able to reconcile the relationship by saying, I just want to tell you that I'm sorry for what I did. That's not going to work. You're going to have to say, I'm sorry that I stole your money out of your bank account. I'm sorry that I slept with your husband. I'm sorry that I slept with your wife. I'm sorry that I abused you when you were a child. I'm sorry that I verbally abused you as a teenager, etc. Whatever it is, you need to state what you did. It can't be a blanket statement, because the person receiving the apology, or the person that you're trying to reconcile with, they need to hear they need to know that you realize what you did. They need to know that you realize, um, or that you may not be able to know exactly how much you hurt them, of course, because you're not them. But they need to have some semblance that says this person knows that they really hurt me, or they angered me, or they offended me, or whatever the case may be. The next thing you need to know is, you need to be prepared for distance. Sometimes when you try to reconcile a relationship, it doesn't go as smoothly as, I'm sorry um, that I put a dent in your car. And they say, okay, thank you for your apology. And then you guys hug it out, and then you just go out to lunch. It normally doesn't go like that. So you need to be prepared that after you initiate contact, you state what you did wrong and tell them you apologize, you're sorry, or whatever the case may be, for the exact thing that you did wrong. Um, you need to be prepared for distance. Sometimes after you initiate, and even after you say what you did wrong and you ask them to forgive you, there will still be a moment or a time of distance. They might just look at you. They might just say, yeah, okay, and go on about their business. or hang up or whatever. If you text them the apology and be prepared not to have a response back. The person who initiates the reconciliation, the person who has to apologize, or even the person you might feel like there's been they've done some things to you and you've done some things to them. Sometimes the situation is where both people are at fault, but one person decides to start the reconciliation process. But either way it goes, be prepared for some kind of distance. Whenever you have wronged someone, they've been thinking about this for a season in their mind, for however long that it's been. They may not be thinking about it morning, noon, and night, but they have considered it, they have mulled it over, they have thought about what they would say or do if they ever saw you again or spoke to you again. So you're going to be digging up old wounds. You're going to be, taking the band-aid off the wound, so to speak. So you have to be prepared for distance. You have to be prepared to let them think about, whoa, this person called me, or whoa, this person contacted me and they said they were sorry, or whatever the case may be. And you might get a text message back, or you might get a phone call back, stating how they feel about the situation. But nevertheless, the tip number 3, and not necessarily all the tips won't be necessarily in that order, in the same order, but you need to be prepared for distance. You need to be prepared to give the person space, give the person time to think about what is getting ready to take place, what's going on. The next thing is in their mulling over that you've contacted them or what have you, or if you see them face to face or FaceTime them or whatever, because they have been mulling it over, or because they have considered what they would say or how they feel or whatever, if they were to ever talk to you again, or whatever the case may be, they're going to have a few things to say. It's rare that you apologize for an offense, and it's just, okay, thank you for apologizing, and you guys go your separate ways, or you go out for a cup of coffee and da 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 da, and then you just start back talking the very next day or the very next week like nothing ever happened. Those are very small infractions that can get that type of result. So you should be prepared for them to have to say a few things. When they get ready to tell you how they feel, you need to be prepared to listen, because they're not going to say everything smoothly. They're not going to get everything just right. They may say you did a couple of things that you disagree with, or that you don't feel you did wrong. Do not interrupt them. Do not lash back. Well, you did this, or the reason I did that was because of this. That's a no. If you want reconciliation, you have to allow the person to be hurt, and you have to allow the person to express what they want to express, say what they want to say to you, express how they feel about what has taken place, so forth and so on. You might be thinking, well, it's been 5 years. Well, that happened last year. Well, that happened 6 months ago. Or that happened 10 years ago. Or that happened when we were children. Or whatever the case may be. So to you, it might be, that happened back in the day. You're still bothered about that, or you're still angry about that. But to them, the wound could be as fresh as yesterday. When we get hurt by people, especially those that we love, and you have to realize most people can't hurt you that are not close to you. So it's going to be somebody you love. It's going to be someone you thought you had a connection with. It's going to be someone who you opened yourself up to, made yourself vulnerable to. So the wound, once you open up the conversation to apologize, once you rip the band-aid off, once you rip the band-aid off, it's the wound will be fresh again. It will be like it happened yesterday or last week or what have you, even though it may have happened 10 years ago. There are some things, some questions, they might have questions in their mind about the incident and how everything went down or why everything went the way that it went. So it's not going to be as smooth as you say, I'm sorry for what I did to you, and so now can we be cool? Are we good? It's not going to be like that. You're going to have to put on your tough skin and be prepared to hear whatever it is that they have to say. And you're going to have to be okay with allowing them to be angry. You're going to have to be okay with allowing them to be angry. And they can be angry for a week. They might be angry for a couple of months, a few days. They might reconcile with you, but they still have to work it out for the next 2 or 3 months. It depends on the circumstances, and it depends on what the infraction was. And it also depends on the maturity level of the person that's offended. And don't misunderstand me for all you people out there who have been offended. You being offended is not a sign of immaturity. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that sometimes the Lord will have worked some things out in you as the one that was offended in forgiveness already before the person even approaches you to ask for your forgiveness or to apologize. So the transition back into relationship may go smoother than someone that the Lord has not been working on in forgiveness or working on of compassion or what have you. Because everyone that's been offended is not talking to the Lord about the situation and allowing Him to minister healing. Some people that you offend don't belong to the Lord. Some people that you offend belong to the Lord, but they haven't reached that step of walking in forgiveness and so forth and so on. So they're not quite sure how to process forgiveness. It can be quite an individualized thing. It can be customized. That's what I'm looking for. It can be customized for each situation and each person. Also, I want to mention when someone comes back to reconcile with you, or when you as the person who wants to initiate the reconciliation, keep in mind that you might come with an offering, and that wouldn't be unheard of. For instance, if you stole some money out of someone's account, say you stole $1,000 out of your mother's account, and she's aware that how much you took, etc., etc. When you come back to reconcile, having that $1,000 would be a good thing. It wouldn't be a bad thing for you to say, Mom, I want to apologize to you for stealing that money, and I bought you your $1,000 back, and proceed from there. Sometimes apologies, sometimes reconciliation requires recompense. Sometimes it requires restitution. So if there's something in the person, if you are the offender and you are trying to make amends or you're trying to reconcile the relationship, having the restitution for what you did is helpful. If you are the person who, if you are wanting to reconcile but what you did was not something that you can make you cannot, what do I want to say, Lord? That if you are the one that wants to reconcile, but what you did is not does not have a monetary value on it or something that you can replace. I'm sorry, I broke this. I got you a new one, or whatever the case may be. Then be prepared to just listen. Be prepared to understand that everyone doesn't take apologies and just they're just bubbly the day after and all is well. Sometimes they have to walk that thing out for a while. Sometimes, they have some things they want to say back to you, some choice words, and you have to be prepared to listen to those choice words. You have to be prepared to be talked loud to. You might be prepared to be yelled at. You should be prepared for tears. And you should be prepared. You should be prepared for if they hang up in your face. You should be prepared if they call you a name. And, some people might not agree with this method, but I know it's the truth. Because we are emotional creatures, both men and women. And we don't take too kindly to different assaults, different attacks, different offenses. And some of the offenses that you do to people, or some of the offenses that have been done to us, they hurt. They hurt. And once the scab is ripped off, there might be bleeding, there might be stinging, it might be sore. You might have to endure backlash. And you should be prepared for that. You should be prepared for that. It would be nice to say, they're going to just say, oh, okay, thank you for apologizing. I really appreciate that. But that's not always the case. As a matter of fact, it's rarely the case. Even for a mature Christian, or even for a person who God has been working on them to understand what forgiveness is. They still may have a few choice words to say to you. They may say things like, I never thought you would do such a thing. You really hurt me. I think you're a lowlife. You get on my nerves. I hate you. I don't care if you're sorry. I don't care if you want to apologize. I want you to stay out of my life. So forth and so on. Those are real responses. Those are real responses. But sometimes it's worth it. Matter of fact, all the time, it's worth it. It's worth it. If you have to hear it. And I'm not suggesting that someone hits someone else. But there have been times when someone has gone up to a person and said, I want to apologize for whatever it was that they did, and they got slapped. They literally got hit, or they got beat up, or if it's a man or a woman, or depending on if it's man to man, or whatever the case may be. Sometimes they've been told you were a sorry father, or you were a sorry mother, or you were weak, or you were whatever the case may be. And so it's important to know the steps that can happen in a reconciliation process, in an apology, in an apology mode. What the recipient may feel, what the giver may feel, what the initiator may feel. And then after the explosion, after the tears, after them saying you're a low life, you're a hooker, you are this, that, or the other, or I hate you, or I don't care if you're sorry, I don't accept your apology, whatever the case may be, because they might say they don't accept your apology. But no, at that point, you are released in a certain area. That certain area may be with Christ. You've already repented to him, and now you're going to the person, and so forth and so on. So with Christ, you may be forgiven. With Christ, you may be released. But when it comes to the person, you need to give it some time. It's not wise, even though it happens. It's not wise to say, well, I tried to apologize to her, but she told me this, and this, and told me to stay out of her life, and told me she hates me, so forth and so on, so forget it. No, because you had that coming. That's the thing about reconciliation. That's the thing about apologizing. And that's the thing about hearing out the other person that you have offended, is you had that coming. You're not going to always be able to approach a situation, tell a person how they hurt you, tell a person, how that you hurt, and it just all fade away because I already repented to God and I said I was sorry, so oh well. No. You need to take that back to the throne and ask the Father what the next step is, and giving that person time. Giving that person time to receive what you said, to process what you said, to cry it out at home, to go to the gym and punch the punching bag, or whatever, be it male or female, however you release your stress or what have you. And then you as the initiator can give it a little more time, and then ask the Father when you can re-enter that person's life to see how things have turned out, to see if there's reconciliation, and it's still a possibility. You have to be willing to take the lashes. You have to be willing to take the words. And still come back again and say, I don't know if you've had time to think, or if you've had time to think things over or whatever, but I was hoping that we could have lunch, or I was thinking maybe we could talk on the phone, or whatever the case may be. I'm having a family dinner. I thought maybe you would come. I'd like to invite you. You can even bring someone if you want. Whatever. You still have to go to the next step of reconciliation. The next step of reconciliation is not just letting it go because they yelled at you. It's not just letting it go because they cursed you out. It's not just letting it go because, oh, well, I already apologized. There's nothing else I can do. As if to say, well, I apologize, so all should be good. I apologize, so what's your problem? No. That's not how reconciliation happens, and that's not how apologies happen. You have to be willing to take the lashes, like I said earlier. You have to be willing to take the distance, the discontent. You have to be willing to receive the fact that they really are mad at me. And this thing that I've been putting off for years, or this thing that I've been putting off for months, didn't just fade away. Even though I was avoiding it, even though I didn't want to talk about it, even though I didn't want to admit that I was wrong. So now when I finally do admit it, it should all just be good. And how dare you get angry, and how dare you be mad, and how dare you tell me you don't want to ever see me again. No, that's not how that goes. You have to be willing to take what they dish out as a retaliation for what you did in the first place. Let's use Jacob and Esau for an example. When Jacob did what he did to his brother Esau, he ran away far away. And when it was time for him to return back home as the father had instructed him, he didn't know what he was going to be greeted with. He didn't know what Esau was going to do. He thought that when he saw Esau, Esau was going to kill him. So he set up gifts to give to Esau. 200 donkeys and 50 this and this and this and this. So as Esau was headed to Jacob, Jacob was headed to Esau with his family and wives and children, etc. And he sent his servants ahead of him with all the cattle and stuff that he was going to give as gifts to Esau. When Esau saw the items, he said, "Whose stuff is this, etc.? Where are you coming from?" And they told him it was Jacob and da-da-da-da-da. So he made his way to Jacob, and he told Jacob, he went to Jacob, and he embraced Jacob. And Jacob told him, "Take these gifts as a token for what I did to you." And Esau said, "No, you can keep them. You can keep those items. The Lord has blessed me. I'm doing fine. I'm good." And he said, "No, no, no. Take these items." And so Esau finally said, "Okay, I'll receive your gifts. I'll receive your restitution." So even though the Lord had already been working on Esau to forgive Jacob, and he had already blessed Esau, so Esau was lacking nothing, he still needed to take the recompense. Not the recompense, but he still needed to take the restitution offered by Jacob, because sometimes that's part of the reconciliation process, is allowing the other person to make amends, allowing the other person to make it right. And so by Esau accepting the gifts that Jacob gave to him, it was Esau's way. That is Esau's way of saying, "Okay, I receive your gifts because I receive your apology. I forgive you. And because I forgive you, I'll receive your gifts that you're giving me to say how sorry you are." And that might be necessary. That might be your case. You might need to be, you know what, to make it up to you, I'll pay for your flight to wherever, or whatever the situation is, because each situation is different, and each situation is unique. But the point is that Jacob still had to be willing to face Esau. Even though he did it in a cowardly way as far as I was concerned. But the point is that he still knew he had to go back. The person who comes back to make the apology, the person that's coming back to correct things, they're nervous, they're afraid, they're unsure of how you're going to respond, so forth and so on. But as the person who did the wrong, you have to be willing to face the other person. You have to be willing to face what you did. It's not going to fade away because you did that to them when they were 10, parents. You abused them, you manipulated them, you bullied them. And you think because now they're 25, or now they're 18, or now they're 32, that they should just be over it. There's no such thing as time healing wounds. Time doesn't do any of that. Time doesn't heal wounds. Recompense, payment for what you did, heals wounds. Verbal apology heals wounds. Restitution, repayment for what you broke, stole, damaged, heals wounds. but not time. Not time. Even when God is working on you, even though God was working on Esau, it wasn't the time that Jacob stayed away that healed the wound. It was God that healed the wound. It was him ministering to Esau while ministering to Jacob that healed the wound. It had nothing to do with time. If the Lord had not been involved, Esau would have found Jacob and slew him, just like he promised that he would. And just like some of us, our enemies have promised to kill us because of what we've done. Or we have promised to kill somebody else. And not necessarily an actual murder, but we've said, if I ever see that person again, oh, wait till I talk to them. I'm gonna give them a piece of my mind. Or I got a few choice things I'm gonna say to that person. So, yeah, time doesn't do that. There's a lot of things that heal wounds, but time is not one of them. So, in conclusion, consider the rules of engagement when it comes to reconciliation, when it comes to apologies, when it comes to restitution, and restoring your relationship. Remember, when you jump in, to jump in with precision, jump in with a plan, and jump in with tough skin. Know that when you jump in, know that when you initiate that reconciliation, you're going to take a few hits. You're going to take some scarring. You're going to take some harsh words. You're going to take they might even come out and tell you, you owe me blah, 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 blah. Be prepared to listen. Be prepared to hear what they have to say, even if it's harsh. Because you already did your offense. You already did the damage. Now it's their turn to show you how your damage made them feel. And you don't get to throw a tantrum because you don't like what they have to say, or because you don't like how it made them feel. Think about it. Research in the Word, if you will. You don't have to be a Christian for this to work. You don't have to be a child of God for this to work. There are principles that he puts in effect when it comes to reconciliation, repentance, repenting to the person, not just to him. There's procedures and principles in place that can work for anybody. That can work for anybody. And then once you do the principles, once you initiate the steps, and you give them time to breathe, you give them time for it to sink in that you have apologized and they have yelled at you and they have said how they feel, and then give them a week, give them 2 weeks, give them a month, and then contact them again and say, I know that how things went the last time we spoke, but I was hoping, or I was wondering, do you think that we can start a process of building our relationship again? Do you think that we can start a process of being friends again, or getting back into relationship, or having a parent-child relationship, or being siblings again, or whatever your relationship is? You still need to give it time, and then you need to go back into the game. You need to get back in the ring. Don't let it just go after they yell at you, or after they tell you how they feel and you guys hang up, or you guys get in your car and go in your separate ways. Give it a month or so, give it 3 weeks or so, however long you think that it needs to be, and then you contact them again and say the reason that I came to apologize and came to give you restitution and came to just to talk to you and tell you that I'm sorry is because I would like for us to be friends again, or I would like for us to blah, 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 blah. Do you think that that's possible? You still have to go back into the game. There's a final step. There's an ending step. It's not just they didn't accept my apology right away, so oh well, or they yelled right away, so oh well. That's not reconciliation. And then if they say, well, I don't know how I feel about that, or I don't know if I want to be friends with you or be in relationship with you or whatever the case may be, then you say, okay, well, I tell you what, how about if I give you some space, and if you decide that we can initiate something, that we can start something, can I call you next month? Can I call you in a week? Or so forth and so on. And that's how you do it. You have to give it time, initiate. Give it time, give a call. Give it time, give an invitation. You're going to have to put in some work as the offender. You're not going to be able to just make one apology and then if things don't go back to normal, oh well. That's not reconciliation. You have to decide if you want reconciliation or if you just want to clear your conscience by apologizing. And that's okay too. If you just want to clear your conscience by apologizing, if you just want to let them know that I know I did you wrong and I'm sorry and I just wanted you to know, that's okay too. But if you want reconciliation, if that relationship is valuable to you, then it's going to take those other final steps that you just heard me mention. So, I want you all to have the best day that you can. If you would like free counsel in that area, the information will be in the description. Other than that, you have the best day that you can. And I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye.